Captain Alara Voss is introduced as a captured figure, once a decorated hero of humanity's Terran Defense Force, now paraded in shackles before the Galactic Tribunal, the highest interstellar court in the galaxy. The setting itself is starkly alien and intimidating. A massive obsidian chamber carved from a dead moon, lit by cold light and filled with the tension of dozens of alien delegates who have come not to witness justice, but to carry out a public condemnation. She is the sole representative of humanity, and even then, not by choice. The Council has barred any Terran observers from attending, supposedly for security reasons. Ilara's presence isn't for fair deliberation, it's theater. A show trial designed to send a message: no one, not even a human war hero, is above Council authority. The list of charges is long and serious. Unauthorized military action, aggression against a Council vessel, destruction of a scientific facility, and crimes against sentient species. But the truth is darker than the charges. These accusations are a cover-up. Several weeks before her trial, Ilara's fleet intercepted a Council cruiser in the Dayrune system. Intelligence suggested it was ferrying a classified biological weapon. When she engaged and destroyed it, what she found in the debris changed everything. Evidence of a secret Council black site laboratory, hidden in violation of galactic law, where Deathworld species, especially humans, were being used for genetic experiments. The supposed scientific facility she destroyed was one such lab. Its researchers weren't just gathering data, they were torturing children. Ilara had immediately initiated Protocol Ember, a human military doctrine authorizing unapproved action when encountering war crimes. She recorded evidence, sent it through encrypted channels back to Earth and to select Deathworld allies, went in to burn the site to the ground. But the Council moved faster. They intercepted the data, suppressed the footage, and launched a full-scale operation to capture her alive. Killing her outright would risk martyrdom. A trial, however, would brand her a rogue, a warmonger, symbol of uncontrolled human savagery. It was far more useful now. In the tribunal chamber, she is shackled not only physically but politically. Her enemies control the narrative. Yarzani, tall, serpentine beings, accuse her of undermining peace. The insectoid Exer Hive Queen hisses about her genocidal tendencies. Even the herbivorous Veil, who once traded openly with Earth, call her actions primitive and irrational. Through it all, Ilara remains silent, cold, composed, not broken waiting, because unknown to the tribunal. She is not as isolated as they believe. Her neural implant, connected to a restricted military AI named Valkyrie, has been quietly working behind the scenes. While Ilara's captors thought her data destroyed, Valkyrie was rebuilding it from the fragments stored in her, mined in her implant's sublayers. Hours before the trial, it began swinging. Her silence isn't fear, it's strategy. She watches as the judges debate her execution. Final dissolution, the preferred euphemism. It sounds clean, just another criminal erased from history. Number 2. One in the room expects anything but compliance. Humanity, after all, is just a century into interstellar relations. Or minor power, loud, proud, and easily dismissed. But that's their mistake. Ilara knows this is not just about her. If the Council can suppress one human, they can suppress all. And more importantly, she knows the truth is bigger than any Cortand once it gets out. No Council decree will survive the backlash, as her 10-minute defense statement is called. She finally steps forward, her voice calm and resolute, cuts through the noise, not begging for life, not apologizing, but pointing directly at the heart of the corruption. She accuses the Council of conspiracy, of using peace as a front for control, of targeting Deathworlders to maintain their own power. She tells them about the experiments, about the children, about the dozens of species the Council quietly vanishes. In the name of order, the judges try to silence her. The guards shift nervously. But something is happening. All across the galaxy, devices begin pinging. Military networks, civilian comms, pirate relays, even public news feeds. Footage Ilara recovered is now going live, broadcasted by Valkyrie's decentralized AI burst. Delegates gasp. A few break ranks and stare in horror at the evidence children in glass tubes. Live experiments on captured humans. Documents signed by council members themselves. Inside the tribunal, the atmosphere shifts. The facade begins to crack, and Alara, still chained, stands taller. Because now, the galaxy doesn't just hear her. It believes her. The tribunal has given Captain Alara lost her chance to speak 10 minutes to defend herself before the Galactic Council confirms her death sentence. It's a formality. One last attempt at dignity before execution. No one in the room believes. She can say anything to sway them. But Alara doesn't need to sway them. She needs to expose them. Her words are calm, measured, but powerful. She begins by restating the charges against her unauthorized aggression, destruction of a research facility, war crimes, but she uses them as a framing device to begin unraveling the truth behind what actually happened at Daeroon's Rift. Doesn't speak in anger or desperation. She speaks with certainty. Knowing that every word she utters aligns with the footage and classified files about to flood the galaxy, she asks the tribunal, publicly and clearly, why a supposedly peaceful Council cruiser was carrying a Class 12 biotainment system, a device outlawed after the Serati Plague. She describes what she found on that ship, and later, what she saw in the hidden lab it led to, a facility not researching viruses or weapons for defense, but altering Deathworld genetics, namely, human DNA for the purpose of suppressing aggression, emotion, and even memory. She describes the horrors she witnessed. Children bred in tanks, organs harvested from living subjects, entire captured colonies used for behavioral experiments under the guise of peacekeeping. She names names. Council officials, scientists, even planetary governors who greenlit the experiments. At first, the alien judges scoff, calling her delusional. A few even laugh nervously. But that facade quickly crumbles, because as she speaks, the evidence starts hitting the galaxy like a tidal wave. Her AI partner Valkyrie has completed its mission. All across the galaxy on news networks, pirate feeds, Deathworld data clouds, even in encrypted council channels, the truth is being broad-stayed. Holograms flicker in delegates' hands. Personal comms start pinging. Even the tribunal's internal feed is hijacked. First comes video footage. Alien scientists speaking in council dialects, discussing how emotive suppression would prevent humans from rebelling. Then lab footage, graphic, disturbing, and raw, showing experiments conducted on living humans and other Deathworlders. Then files, signed orders from various council members authorizing black ops and medical testing on emotionally volatile species. The chamber erupts. Some delegates shout in disbelief. Others fumble with their datapads, trying to block the stream, but it's too late. Valkyrie's AI isn't just hacking, it's releasing the info through thousands of decentralized nodes mirrored across civilian and military channels alike. Cannot be stopped. And Alara? She watches them panic, still wearing her shackles. The council guards move toward her, suddenly aware that she is no longer simply a prisoner, she is now a threat to the entire regime. They call in reinforcements. The judges begin screaming to cut her feed, declaring it falsified, synthetic, staged. But no one is listening anymore. The truth isn't just on screen. It's in the room. One veiled diplomat, the same one who condemned her, as Savage looks down at his datapad in horror. His species had lost entire villages to council relocation efforts. Now he realizes why. They were sent to testing facilities. Another delegate vomits. Yet another tries to flee, but is stopped by a rising mob of shouting officials. Alara speaks over the chaos one final time. You wanted a trial? Our crimes on display. Your crimes on display. Your lies unraveling. Your empire rotting from the inside. Then she goes silent, because her message is complete. Not just in words, but in proof. The galaxy now sees not a warmonger in chains, but a whistleblower, a protector. And perhaps most dangerous of all, a symbol. The council's carefully curated narrative has collapsed in a matter of minutes, and as the guards rush to restrain her again, she isn't afraid. Her body might still be bound, but everything else is free now. Her words, her evidence, and her truth have ignited something far greater than a defense. They've ignited a reckoning, and Alara is far from done. The tribunal is in complete chaos. What was meant to be a staged conviction has become a spectacle of exposed lies. Delegates are panicking. The courtroom echoes with overlapping shouts, protests, and confusion. The facade of the Galactic Councils. Order has cracked wide and loud right in front of their eyes. In the center of it all stands Alara Voss, still chained, but the key moment has arrived. The chain binders on her wrists begin to blink red, unnoticed by the panicked guards and judges. This is not a malfunction. This is a signal, a planned activation sequence initiated by her neural implant and Valkyrie, the Terran AI partnered with. Since her capture, you see, Alara didn't come to this trial unprepared. She expected the council to silence her, to block evidence, and possibly execute her without hesitation. So she made a backup plan, one that fused Terran technology with her own body. The chains designed by the council to suppress and track her had been secretly rewritten by Valkyrie. Now, with the evidence broadcasted and the signal triggered, the chains unlock. Not just unlock, they transform. The metal flows up her arms and hardens, reshaping into a pair of battle-ready gauntlets, lined with reactive nanosteel. It's the Terran military's answer to ceremonial execution. Never come unarmed to your own funeral before the nearest guard can react. Alara strikes, the reinforced fist shattering the Dreven's spinal column in a single blow. Another lunges, with a shock staff, but she twists aside, grabs it mid-strike, and uses it to impale him through his armor's neck joint. Screams erupt. Delegates scatter. The tribunal's elite guard, trained for political security but not full combat, are outclassed instantly. Alara moves like a force of nature. Not wild precise, calculated. Her training is evident in every strike, parry, and counterattack. Years in the Terran Defense Force. Hundreds of close quarters encounters on Death World battlefields. And the instincts of a soldier who's been betrayed too many times. She isn't fighting for escape. She is executing judgment. This isn't revenge born of fury. It's the first step of justice. She leaves the unarmed alone. Focuses instead on the guards, the judge-executioners, and the officials who shouted for her death even as the evidence spilled out. One tries to beg. Another attempts to flee. Alara's response is swift and final. She speaks rarely, but when she does, it cuts deeper than any blade. You held the gavel. You wrote the orders. Now feel the weight of your justice. In the audience stands the Exerhive Queen, the most vocal of the death sentence advocates. Her claws twitch in panic. For decades, her brood approved and benefited from the experiments. On unstable species, now she watches as her protection crumbles. She tries to crawl a whale, literally slithering toward an exit as her guards fall. Alara leaps the rail, lands beside her, and pins her thorax to the stone floor. The queen begs for mercy. Alara responds, "You didn't show mercy to the children in your labs," and she delivers the killing blow. Around her, the elite guards are either dead or unconscious. The tribunal chamber lies in ruined pillars, cracked, blood pooling beneath shattered armor, diplomatic robes torn. The galaxy's seat of law is now a battlefield drenched in poetic irony. Outside the chamber, emergency forces scramble, but the entire building has been locked down. Valkyrie is still connected through Alara's neural interface as hijacked. Its security systems. No one's coming in. No one's going out. Status. Alara mutters under her breath. Valkyrie replies in her ear, voice cool and composed. Council comes jammed. Reinforcements stalled. Galactic media now framing you as a rogue agent, but the evidence feed is spreading too fast to contain. She steps toward the final tier of judges. These were the highest-ranking tribunal members, those who oversaw not only her trial, but hundreds of others. Some now whimper. One tries to bribe her with credits. Another offers a confession in exchange. For mercy, Alara nods slowly, then swings her arm. One strike. One head rolls. It becomes a ritual. Not bloodthirsty, not crazed deliberate. Alara has assumed a new role. One the council never anticipated, not the defendant, but the executioner. When the final blow lands, silence falls over the chamber. Ilara Voss, once prisoner, now liberator, stands alone, surrounded by the shattered symbols of a corrupted order. Her chains lie broken at her feet, soaked in the blood of tyrants. She doesn't smile. She doesn't gloat. She simply walks toward the sealed exit. Because this was never about personal vengeance. This was Act 1 of a galaxy-wide purge. The chamber of the Galactic Tribunal lies in ruins. Smoke rises from shattered pillars, blood pools around fallen guards and council dignitaries, and holographic projectors spark and flicker. In the center of it all, Ilara Voss stands unbroken. What began as a public execution has ended in a massacre of the Council's elita. Reckoning broadcasted in real time to the entire galaxy. She doesn't flee. She walks out of the tribunal in full view of the galaxy's cameras, her face impassive, armor blood-stained, steps measured. Behind her, the bodies of judges and executioners remain as silent witnesses to a new era. The doors hiss shut, sealing the Cena mausoleum to a failed empire. Outside, panic and revolution collide. News of what happened inside the tribunal spreads faster than any official announcement. It's not just the footage of Elaris Fittitz, the data she exposed. All over the galaxy, species once thought stable under council rule now see the truth. The disappearances, the sterilizations, the engineered famines, it wasn't mismanagement. It was deliberate suppression. The council's silence in the face of the evidence only confirms what everyone now suspects. They've been lying for centuries. Within days, entire worlds rebel. On the acid moon of Geller, the mining colonies rise. Up against their Arzani overseers, on the jungle world of Tyres, Deathworlders who had long lived under enforced curfews burned the council's enforcer outposts to the ground. On Varela Station, scientists leak decades of classified research that confirms the existence of hundreds of black site labs just like the one Lara destroyed, and always one symbol stands at the center of it all, Ilara Voss. Though she doesn't call for rebellion, she doesn't have to. Her actions speak louder than 1,000 manifestos. The galactic population now sees her not as a war criminal, but as a torchbearer. A singular figure who stood in the face of galactic tyranny and survived it. More than that, defeated it. But not all responses are supportive. The council, fractured, but still functional in parts, begins a massive propaganda campaign. They declare Ilara a terrorist, a rogue AI puppet, mutated Deathworlder driven by madness. But their efforts fall flat. With every lie they tell, new evidence leaks from whistleblowers emboldened by Elara's stand. She's become more than a soldier, now she's a movement. Even humanity, initially stunned, quickly embraces her as a folk hero. The Terran Defense Command, officially silent, loses several strike teams that later appear helping rebellious colonies overthrow their local governors. Civilians name ships after her. Children on frontier worlds wear homemade gauntlets in tribute. A new phrase spreads across Terran space. Voss justice, when law fails. Truth strikes back. Yet Ilara herself stays distant. She doesn't assume power. She doesn't build a fleet. She doesn't claim a throne. She refuses to become what she just destroyed. Instead, she appears sporadically on border worlds facing retaliation. A Death World colonies bracing for council revenge. And in underground meetings of newly united species, she comes not as a leader, but as a reminder that strength without conscience is tyranny, and that peace without justice is just a quieter form of oppression. Her AI, Valkyrie, helps coordinate encrypted communications between formerly isolated rebel cells. What began as isolated resistance becomes a coordinated movement. The council is no longer feared, it's hunted. On world after world, tribunals are overthrown, the symbols of central power dismantled, but it's not all triumphant. In response to the uprising, some factions of the council go dark, turning to scorched earth tactics to retain power. On the orbital arcology of Syraxa, they detonate a fusion core to eliminate a suspected rebel node, killing 1 million civilians. On Vale Prime, entire ecosystems are poisoned as punishment. Ilara responds not with words but with presence. She lands on Syrax's ruins days later and publicly broadcasts a list of council officials tied to the massacre. One by one, they begin dying under mysterious circumstances. Some vanish. Others are found executed with surgical precision. It's clear, Voss, justice doesn't end with one courtroom. The galaxy finally begins to reorganize. Not under one empire, but under a loose alliance of autonomous worlds. Bound by a new code of interstellar law written with transparency and with humanity as a founding voice, Ilara Voss remains at its edges, never seeking recognition, always. Moving, she becomes a myth in real time, living legend whose image is burned into the memory of every being who lived through the reckoning. She did not lead an army. She became a symbol, a warning, and a promise. Years have passed since Ilara Voss walked out of the Galactic Tribunal with blood on her hands and truth on her lips. The echoes of her actions that day didn't just reshape a trial, they reshaped the galaxy. What began as one woman's defiance has become a ripple across space-time, evolving into a movement, a doctrine, and for some, a belief system. The Galactic Council, once the most powerful political entity in known space, has fallen. Not instantly, but slowly crumbling under the weight of its own exposed lies. The footage and evidence Ilara released couldn't be buried, became a permanent stain, archived across every planetary network. People refused to forget. Protests turned to riots. Riots turned to revolutions. World after world rejected council rule and joined what would soon be called the Accorda Decentralized Alliance, founded on transparency, consent, and equal representation of all species, including the long marginalized Deathworlders. The restructuring of galactic law began with one uncomfortable but necessary principle: no power without truth, no peace without justice. This phrase was etched into the founding documents of the Accord, and it was attributed to the one who had inspired it, Ilara Voss, but she never claimed it. Her legacy is paradoxical. She's everywhere, yet nowhere. Monuments of her are raised across the stars. Some depict her in her blood-streaked armor, others in the moment her chains broke, standing over the bodies of the corrupt. On Death Worlds, her name is revered like a war goddess. On Core Worlds, she's feared and respected, a necessary force of correction that kept civilization from consuming itself. Children are taught about her in schools. Some worlds call her a hero, others label her a necessary evil. Few radical elements, especially former council loyalists, brand her a war criminal and a tyrant cloaked in righteousness. But one fact remains undisputed: she changed everything, and yet Ilara herself disappeared from public life after the initial wave of revolution. There are scattered, inconsistent sightings. On a shattered asteroid colony, she was seen pulling children from a collapsed biodome. On a distant moon under siege by rogue enforcers, a lone figure in Terran armor allegedly coordinated an evacuation that saved 40,000 lives. On the battlefield of Calith Primeware, the last loyalist, Council fleet made its final stand. Witnesses report a cloaked human activating a critical reactor core, sacrificing herself to disable the entire enemy command structure. Was it her? No one knows. Some believe she died in that moment. Others insist she still lives, guiding Valkyrie from the shadows, ensuring that no new empire grows unchecked. A few conspiracy theorists claim she merged her consciousness with the AI itself, becoming the ghost in every system, the protector watching from every corner of the galaxy's web. But regardless of her physical presence, her legacy is alive and unstoppable. New laws were passed, banning genetic experimentation on sentient species without consent. Transparency systems were built into every new government. Judges now serve fixed terms and undergo strict public accountability measures. War crime investigations are open and crowd-reviewed. Voss protocols are embedded in Accord military conduct, mandating immediate recording and transmission of battlefield data to prevent future cover-ups. Even rogue Terran factions, who once rejected the Accord, now adhere to one principle: Above all others, never let what happened before the reckoning happen again. There is no statue of her in the Accord Central Council chamber. At Alara's own recorded request made in one of her rare transmissions, she asked for her likeness never to stand where law is written. Her reason was simple. I didn't come to rule. I came to make sure no one else ruled like they did. Instead, a symbol is carved above the chamber, a pair of broken shackles, one blood-stained, one glowing with light. It represents both what she destroyed and what she set free. The phrase beneath it has become the battle cry of the oppressed, the motto of enforcers of truth, and the fearful whisper of corrupt leaders across the stars they tried to judge. Hersha became their executioner. And in that single line, history remembers a woman who walked into death to deliver justice, and who walked out carrying the weight of a revolution.